And the Oscar goes to Women Talking, Sarah Polley.
I've been on this binge watch of movies that won Oscars this year, and I'd say that this movie is phenomenal. This movie is something that I think everybody should watch, especially if you're in film school. I think this movie teaches you a lot about storytelling and the importance of dialogue and the importance of blocking and the importance of acting. I think this is, for me, it was a masterpiece. You know, when I reflect back on which movie won Best Movie of the Year with everything, all at once, I think they deserve to. I always feel like when it comes to art, it's always difficult when you have to decide who's the best because it's so subjective. But after watching this movie, I feel personally that Women Talking should have taken that, because for me, it's the only movie that depicts reality, or it's a movie that is centered on things that we experience every day, right? Things that we are constantly faced on, the way that we view life in a different way, and how we can come together and have discussion that helps us navigate a way forward. And the movie has several themes and sub-themes, and the text and the subtext of it is something that I feel special. I titled this video A Letter to Sarah Polley, and I'm just gonna read the letter. Dear Sarah, I'm writing this letter to let you know that I've watched Women Talking and it touched me. The filmography of the movie is perfect, the pacing and the editing, the cinematography is awesome. You and the team managed to do something that I've been told is impossible. That is, having a movie full of dialogue yet keeping me engaged and wanting to know more about the characters. What makes your movie impressive to me is the subtext and the sub-themes of it. Whilst on the surface, it asks us the questions of injustice and what we should do in moments of an injustice occurs, one of the main questions that's asked in the movie is, should we stay and fight, stay and forgive, or leave? And when we look at the option of living, is what's the difference between fleeing and living? Fleeing means to run away. Living means to make a decision to live and understand that we choose not violence, we choose not war, but we choose to live. And it's by our own accord, knowing that even if we choose to leave, we can always come back, which is different from fleeing, because once you flee, it means you will never come back. The movie's main themes that I picked out were justice, self-determination, and solidarity among a group, which I feel were well delivered and left room for no question. When you watch the movie, for me, it highly shows me what can happen when a group of people come together, when a group of people are in a space, and how we can communicate and allow each other room to have a conversation that, one, can be emotionally charged, two, we can have difference of opinion, and three, remain respectful. But also, even when things get to a point of people becoming disrespectful, we don't have necessarily to match their energy, but we have an understanding and giving of empathy. I feel like this movie is told from the perspective of a child who doesn't really see how us as adults see the world. And I think that made it special, because the whole movie, and I don't want to butcher a name, I believe it was from Aja's perspective. So we're constantly seeing the world from her eyes, so that when these moments of tension occur, she downplays them to a child's view, whereby it's not really about the disrespect, but it's about seeing the pain that is within each of the characters' perspectives and point of views. One of the performances that I forever remember from this is that of Rooney Mara. Whenever I see her acting, I'm constantly reminded of the girl with the dragon tattoo. But in this movie, I feel like I'll always remember her for being Honor, because her performance is special. Her character, for me, symbolizes something that in humans we need. Somebody who's empathetic, sympathetic, but also is also human. Someone who knows who they are, someone who knows what they want, but someone who's also okay with having their mind changed, who's open to different ideas and doesn't hold on to an idea of the world that they have. The humility and love that a character has is so precious. The way the emotional beats between and August delivers is wonderful. To know that someone can love someone and have that person accept that they could never be with that person left me with a question I have to answer for myself. Would I ever be able to do what August did? Would I ever be able to walk away from somebody that I love or let them go? I think for me, I also have a question, and maybe it's just my mind being twisted, but I thought, with the way that August loves Honor, is there a chance that August also performed an ill act against a DD raper? Was that why he was trying to kill himself? Was that guilt finally catching up? Is that a possibility? But in order for that to be true, it will leave us to think that all men are beasts, all men are evil. And I think that takes away from the story. But from an artistic interpretation, I feel like it's a valid question. I think the key takeaways from Women Talking is the idea that as a society we can have different views, but we can still talk and give each other space to be vulnerable and emotionally allow us to express ourselves. Marishi's character arc is a testament to this.
I'm Sarah Polley, and I am the screenwriter and director of Women Talking.
Why are you laughing? We cannot leave. It would be better to stay and fight than leave.
Do you really mean that you want to stay and not fight?
Women Talking is about a group of women in an isolated religious community who must decide how to respond to a series of attacks that have gone on over years, and they debate between staying and fighting or leaving or doing nothing. In this scene, they've finally come close to making a decision about what they're going to do. And Jessie Buckley's character Marieke, who has really been creating obstacles and has been somewhat of an adversary for the entire movie, is weighing in about why they can't move forward with their plan. And she's been upholding the status quo of needing to forgive the men and do nothing for the entire film. And the other women here come at her hard for it.
Pleading for the love of our Lord Jesus Christ and precious Savior, shut your pie holes, please.
How dare you pass judgment on me?
It wasn't a judgment, it was a question.
So this scene kind of becomes a reckoning with the other women and how they have either judged Marieke for or been complicit in the ongoing domestic violence that she's been experiencing. And I had been reading a lot of Harriet Lerner's work on apologies while I was writing this script, and I realized that in order for this group to move forward together as a cohesive whole, there was going to have to be some accountability from the women themselves to each other. So Marieke here finally says what she's been wanting to say when she says, "How dare you judge me?" When Ona apologizes to Marieke, she does it poorly the first time, and then fully the second time.
Who are you? Who are any of you to pretend I have had a choice?
And when she does this, something in Marieke is thrown off of her defensive stature, and it opens the door for a crucial apology from her mother, Greta. That in turn opens the door for Marieke to finally confront her community about the way they have judged her and not supported her.
I'm also sorry, Marieke. I didn't try to protect you or your children from Klaus. And what you say is true. You had no choice. You forgave him again and again, as you were told to. As I told you to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
When we filmed the scene, we had a crew member who had had a parallel situation in his childhood where there had been abuse and no accountability and no apology from his parents for not protecting him the way they should have. So actually this scene was a kind of collaboration between me and this crew member and Jessie and Sheila, trying to find what the most meaningful apology would be. So specifically the actual words "I'm sorry" at the end was requested by him as well in order to capture what would have felt like a meaningful apology to him. And then when we decided she actually had to say the words "I'm sorry" at the end, Sheila McCarthy, who played Greta, spontaneously said it 3 times. She just felt she had to. And it's exactly what Marieke needs in order to finally begin to become part of this community. and it involves a huge internal shift. And then Kate Hallett, who plays Auche, who really came up with so many things that were not scripted throughout the film, included this cross over to her mother as she realizes what her mother has been carrying and how it connects to how her mother has mothered her. And Jessie, as Marieke, then recognizes how she has passed on this harm. So there's this moment of intergenerational recognition. This is something that happens spontaneously in rehearsal, just based on the fleshing out of the mother-daughter relationship that Jessie and Kate had been doing in every scene, both in rehearsal and on set.
To leave. And I like the idea that it was Aja who decides that they leave. And I like her final line where she says to the child, "Your story will be different from ours." I think that was a valid story. And that is something what this movie does. Is it leaves us to question, as a society, what we necessarily need to change is not our identity, not who we are, but our perspective on life and how we look at situations and issues. When I was young, I was once told that when you're making a movie, when you're telling a story, it's all based on a fundamental question. And each movie has to leave us with that question. What in us has changed and how is it entertained? And I think with your cinematography, you've been able to do something that I think is impressive. And this movie is precious, and I hope that it's forever remembered. And I'm grateful that you won that Oscar that you did. For that means this movie will forever be remembered in history. And people will watch it and will understand the power of dialogue. Congratulations on winning your Oscar for the best adaptive screenplay. I believe this movie deserves more. With that said, this movie has reshaped how I view storytelling moving forward. With that said, I want to say thank you, Sarah Polley, Uncle Kevin.
First of all, I just want to thank the Academy for not being mortally offended by the words women and talking put so close together like that. Cheers. Miriam Taves wrote an essential novel about a radical act of democracy in which people who don't agree on every single issue manage to sit together in a room and carve out a way forward together, free of violence. They do so not just by talking, but also by listening. The last line of our film is delivered by a young woman to a new baby, and she says, "Your story will be different from ours." It's a promise, a commitment, and an anchor, and it's what I would like to say with all of my might to my three incredible kids, Eve, Isla, and Amy, as they make their way through this complicated, beautiful world. Thank you to the best man I've ever known, David Sandomirsky, for giving me the optimism to believe we can and will do better. Dee Dee Gardner and Frances McDormand, thank you for letting me stand on your shoulders and making this space for me. We have the most incredible cast and the most incredible crew, some of whom are here tonight. Please stand up if you're there or if you're in the nosebleeds. And everybody at home who worked on this film. Oh my God. I accept this on all of our behalf. Thank you. Thank you. Wow.